Well, hello. We're in John's Gospel, and we're now to chapter 9. So we're making rapid progress. No, making progress, whether it's rapid or not, so it's highly debatable. And we've got a whole chapter devoted to the healing of a blind man. A man who was blind from birth. And so there's the healing itself to learn from, but there's all sorts of side issues. So we'll just read verses 1 to 5, and that brings out one of the main side issues out straight away. As he passed by, that's Jesus, he saw a man blind from birth. As his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Let me read verse 3 from the NIV. "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life." Now you'll see there's some slight difference there between what that said and what the ESV said. Now, the ESV said, "But that the works of God might be displayed in him." It didn't say that, "But this happened." And in the Greek, "this happened" isn't there. That's an addition put in by the translators on the NIV, presumably to make it read better. We'll just bear that in mind as we get on to this. But a number of things. First of all, a man blind from birth. This was a great miracle. No natural understanding or explanation of why it could have happened. It was a miracle, which will become relevant later on. But then we come to the key issue in the bit we've just read. The disciples asked, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents?" Saying that, right, he's born blind, someone's to blame. Someone sinned that this happened. So, first of all, before we look at that particular issue, in the previous chapter we've seen spiritual blindness on the part of religious leaders, on the part of the common people. We see here that the disciples are also spiritually blind. And both you and I have areas of spiritual blindness. No matter how long we've been Christians. We've been Christians for donkey's years. I've been a Christian for 43 years. Getting on for 44 now, actually. We've still got areas of spiritual blindness. So what's the difference between the disciples and the religious leaders, the Pharisees and what have you? The difference is that the disciples went to Jesus and they learnt from Jesus. Some of the things they said to Jesus mean pretty stupid, like what they said here. Some of the things we've said to God or prayed to God might be pretty stupid. It'd be better if we weren't just as stupid as we are. But the main thing is we go to God, we go to Jesus, so that we can be taught by Jesus. That's a number one issue. Who are you learning from? If you're willing to learn from Jesus, if we're a bit daft, as we all are, we'll learn. Because Jesus is the greatest teacher. But let's get on to this key issue. Who's to blame? And Jesus says, no one was to blame. You look at a silly question. Now, there are two key ways we can go wrong. One is, all sickness is a direct result of sin. Now, all sickness actually is a result of sin, but not in the sense that you could line us up in order of healthiness, and the healthiest person is the least sinful, and the sickest person is the worst sinner in the world. You can't do that. But if mankind had never sinned at all, we wouldn't have sickness. So in that sense, all sickness is a result of sin. But it's not a direct, you see, you can't always measure your own or an individual's spiritual well-being by how healthy or not they are. Jesus said that, look, you're looking at this in the wrong way. You see, we all have a natural tendency to want to judge people. But equally, another error is to say that sickness is never a direct result of sin. Because for instance, in the Bible, where it says it is, I think one of the Herods in Acts was killed because of his sin, and then was eaten by worms. In fact, people like to give children biblical names often. No one ever calls their child Herod, and don't. I don't think there's any good Herods in the Bible. But anyway, that's irrelevancy. And in, I think it's 1 Corinthians, where Paul's talking about the Lord's Supper, saying, this is why many of you fall sick, because of some sin they're committing. So to say that sin is never a direct result, say that sickness is never a direct result of sin, is unbiblical nonsense. To say that all sickness is a direct result of sin is equal nonsense. We need a bit of wisdom and a bit of balance here. And perhaps the key thing here, that Jesus is saying, this isn't the issue. He says here, right, when in the NIV it says, this happened so that, kind of implies that God made this man blind so that the works of God could be demonstrated in his life. It is possible that the the ESV removes this happened so that. Also, the original Greek didn't have punctuation in it as such, or at least as we have it. So it says, but that the works of God might be displayed in him, we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. So Jesus there, if you read the sense of Jesus saying, stop worrying about whose fault it is that he's blind. We've got to heal him. Let's focus on the big issue. Let's get him healed. Notice that he says we. Now obviously here, Jesus is the one who does the miracles. In the Gospels, Jesus is the one who does the miracles. But he's maybe here preparing them for the future when they would be doing the miracles as well. It says, we must do the works of him who sent me. And miracles and the teaching of Jesus and the demonstration of the gospel go together. We have a tendency on one extreme, we go to extreme. It's all miracles. We just want miracles all the time. They say, no, we want teaching. Miracles were just for them. It's both nonsense. It's both. So, and she says, as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Later on, it's going to say, disciples, you are the light of the world. And obviously, there's not light in their own righteousness or anything like that. It's the light of Jesus shining through us. It makes us the light of the world. And we are here to do the works of God. Amen.